Hashtag You're It. I'm Amanda Malcolm, and you're listening to You're It Girl, a podcast focused on you and what propels you. Because that past, it does not define you. Your time is now, and you're it, girl. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to You're It Girl. I am your host, as you know, Amanda Malcolm, and I have two dynamic women next to me who are going to introduce themselves. Who wants to start? Jessica, you just did an episode with me, so why don't you start? We already know a little bit about you.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to be here, so thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming back.
So I'm a mother of three. I have three little ones. I'm an author, a speaker, and I absolutely love empowering women to do deep healing work.
Okay, well, I don't know how you say something after that, but I'm Janey Kaspari. I'm a mother of two, an ex-wife of two. I love to throw that in there. I practice occupational therapy, pediatrics, and I'm an author as well, a copywriter, podcast co-host, coming soon, and social media manager.
Oh, wonderful. And we'll, at the very end, we'll wrap up with how everybody can find each of you. And all of you know that I am a mother of just one. I feel like up against you two, I mean, I just have one, so what do I have to complain about? But one of the things that we're going to talk about today, as Jessica and I got together recently, and we were talking about all kinds of things, healing and work and trauma and kids and moms, and we were talking about one of the things that we just love. Don't you just love being a mom? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, on most days, how much do you love it?
20 out of 10. 20 out of 10, especially with a 14-year-old boy. Let me tell you. Oh. So that's that kind of podcast. Maybe like a 4.
Is it a 20 out of 10?
I actually do love being a mom so much, but I am at a really hard transitional phase because I have my kids are 7 years and 7 days apart. I have a 14-year-old and a 7-year-old.
That's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. And so I'm at a really weird phase with both of them where I have one entering high school and one in second grade. So I cannot parent the same way to both my children, which makes things super complicated. There's not the same rules. There's not the same day-to-day. We're not doing the same things together. So
they're completely different phases of their life.
Totally different phases of life. And I relate very well to my 14-year-old because I am 14. I feel 14.
You feel 14.
I feel very much 14. But then I have a 7-year-old who needs a lot more guidance and being loved on a little bit more than my 14-year-old. So, I mean, I love it. I love being a mom, but I'm at a very hard stage, I feel like right now. So.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Scale of I don't know how it can compete with Janey's answer now. She's like, 20 out of 10.
It's everything I've ever wanted and more.
We'll get
back.
I
totally planned both my children.
We'll get into that in a second. Jessica.
It depends on the time of day. When they're in school, 10 out of 10. I love it. But in all actuality, I'll be real, probably a 5 or 6. It's hard for me. It's not the easiest thing in the world for me. In fact, of all the things that I do in my life, mothering is the most difficult one.
Yeah, I would have to say on a scale of 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 would not be my answer. Definitely 20 wouldn't be. And I have just one. And I grew up with 7 siblings. And sometimes I think to myself, no wonder my mom is an addict and drank, because I'm like, I was actually talking to my sister about this the other day. And she was over. And I said, you know what? Sometimes I think no wonder mom is a little bit crazy, and no wonder she is an addict, because how could you possibly have raised 8 kids? I have 1. And sometimes I just want to freak out, especially being a working mom. So I would say most days I feel at about a 5. And sometimes I don't feel like I'm doing that great of a job. And I don't feel like there's not a lot of support for the fact that you are, as a mom, doing a good job. Do you feel that?
Yes, but I also feel like the fact that we all feel that way means that we are better moms than we think. because I do. I feel like I talk to a lot of moms in my occupational therapy world I work with a lot of special needs moms and just moms who have hard kids, and they would probably rate their experience as pretty similar to ours, but rate themselves as moms as like a 1 out of 10. But these women are phenomenal. And the fact that they feel like it's hard and the fact that they're pouring so much, to me, is like a green flag of, you're pouring yourself into your kids so
You're
hard that, yeah, you are a good mom. It's just hard to be a good mom. It's hard to show up for your kids every day. It's hard to give your kids what they need.
Especially now, when we have to be so much more than a mom.
Oh, yeah.
Which, speaking of, every one of us that's sitting here, so we're moms and we're working moms as well. So all of us, Jessica, you come from the corporate world. So what was that like at the beginning when you had your first child? We'll talk about that first, actually, having your first child and what that was. What was that like?
Yeah, so I was in corporate America, and I remember being pregnant and knowing that I had to work until the very last day. I left work at 5 p.m. on a Friday, and I went into labor on a Saturday. I knew that I couldn't miss work, and I knew that I only had a specific amount of time that I could take off. And I would only get paid 6 weeks. And I took 4 weeks being unpaid, and I remember being so stressed out. And it was the hardest times of my life. And you think that it's so magical, or I thought it would be so magical, but I was so stressed out. And I felt so alone.
Do you think it's supposed to be so magical? Because the most common question that people ask, like after you have that baby, they're like, oh, isn't it just the best thing ever? Aren't you just so happy? Don't you just like gaze into their eyes like every day and like it's like a dream come true? I remember being like, is there something wrong with me? Like actually, I feel like this is not that great and I want to cry every day.
Yeah. 100%.
But you can't say that.
No. And my oldest, I had very young. I was 19 when I had him. I luckily graduated college very early. So I had graduated college and I actually went back to work when he was 3 weeks old because I had gotten my first post-college job. And that was actually a pretty good experience, shockingly, for having to go back so fast. But then my second came and I had severe postpartum depression, severe. And I remember everyone around me being like, oh, are you just loving this? Are you just soaking it up? And I wanted to be like, actually, I wish I was dead. So I don't know how to say that because that's really dark and I will be judged. But like, it's hard.
It's hard. And you will be judged for saying that.
Oh, 100%. And I was, even by my own now ex-husband. But I was like, it's a hard thing. And I think unless you've experienced it, you can't really relate fully. But yeah, I wanted it to be this beautiful, magical experience. And it was everything but that for me.
Yeah, similar. When I first had my daughter, I was working up until literally my water broke, went to the hospital, and the next day I was in that hospital bed, trying to nurse my new baby, and on the phone, knowing that I couldn't take the time off, and knowing that I'd also married somebody that was like, hey, I was married to a stay-at-home mom. Like, this will never happen to me again. So like, you will work. And the pressure was so strong to like then have to be like the perfect mom. So you couldn't tell anybody that you were having dark thoughts. I also felt so alone, so sad all the time. I would just cry. And I was alone at the house. My husband would go to work and I'd be with this baby and working. And then it was time for, they fall asleep for maybe like an hour. And it's like, what we were talking about this at lunch. It was like, okay, they're sleeping for an hour. What should you do? Eat, take a shower, or finish some work stuff. And work usually won.
Totally. And I remember people saying like, you should rest when they rest.
Oh,
I'm like,
God.
What does that mean? What are you even saying right now? Like, who's resting right now?
How?
You can't.
You cannot. How are you supposed to do that?
Yeah.
Whenever there's like a new mom, and Jessica and I were talking about this at lunch too. Now, whenever I just happen to encounter a new mom and I'm like, how is it going? And they get that look, that look that they have. And they say, oh, it's great. I'm like, it's so hard, isn't it? Like, isn't it like the worst?
Yeah,
I say, isn't it like the worst?
You have to say that though.
And then they cry.
Yes.
And they're like, oh my gosh, you're the only one that said that. Like, it is. It's like the consensus is from like almost, I have not had a conversation with any new mom, which is actually refreshing because it makes me feel better. Maybe that's why I'm doing it, to validate myself for the experience that I had. But it's so crazy because anytime you have this exchange, it's the same where if you recall it and you recall being in that moment and being so sad and feeling so alone and being so tired, not remembering a lot of it and not having support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I felt that same way. I felt like I was the only person in the world who had ever experienced this because the message you get from the world, especially with my second where social media was a thing. I was lucky enough with my first that social media did not exist. I didn't even have a camera phone when he was born. So I had that privilege of like, okay, I'm alone, but like maybe everybody else is. I don't know. Like we didn't talk about it. But then when I had my second and I had kind of like a little bit of a social media following, I felt like I had to show up in a certain way and that everyone else was like having this beautiful postpartum experience and that I must be the only person in the world who is suffering. That's what it genuinely felt like.
I think with social media, it actually is a little bit more difficult because I mean, now my daughter's 9. When she was little, we didn't post the monthly things and we didn't have all the pregnancy photos and the gender reveal and like all the things and all the cute little baby photos. Like I just remember we did have like Facebook. This wasn't that long ago, but I remember I didn't post anything on there for like 4 months and people were like behind my back, like, does she even like being a mom? Like, because she's not like posting pictures of her baby. Yeah.
Where did it go?
Is the baby alive? Yeah. Like what? I mean, where does that come from, do you think?
Culture, society?
Yeah, I feel like there's just a huge, and I think a lot of it is like other women needing validation. And so they seek that from us to be like, wait, why aren't you posting? Why aren't you talking about it? Because I'm doing it every day. So why aren't you? Like, it's almost like if I am, you should be too.
And that's experience. I feel like you were saying, we didn't have to really deal with that. There's so much pressure. I feel like even for moms that are younger than us now to have to show up a certain way. I mean, we were talking before we got on set, just about in the working world, like coming off as not talking about your kids too much. Like you're a mom, but that does not come first in the work environment. And you've got to dress a certain way and be presentable and like always be on all the time for your husband, for work, and then for the kids too. And imagine the pressure of the social media aspect of it on top of already the pressure that at least I remember feeling and still do being a mom and working.
100%. I feel like it's just I can't imagine. So since I'm recently divorced again.
Do we say, whenever somebody says something like, do we say congratulations?
Or for this one, yes.
Okay. Congratulations. That's another thing. Like someone's like, everyone's like, oh, I'm sorry. You're like, no, why are you sorry?
Yeah, for sure. No, the first one we could have said sorry. This one we say, okay, you're welcome.
Congrats.
But I do get the question because I'm just turned 34. I'm still like in childbearing age, really. I have had friends who are like, do you want to get married again? Do you want more kids? And I mean, yeah, I would love more. I always wanted a big family. I will not get married again. But I do think about that. Like that actually would, I feel like almost not prevent me, but would make me like double think whether or not I was going to have another child. Just the way we run motherhood now is totally different. Like the social media, everything about it is so, I don't want to use like such a juvenile word, but it's so extra now. It really is. It's like,
we don't need more extra.
We don't need more extra. I'm wearing purple shoes. Okay, I'm extra enough. I'm trying. But
You're a good fucking job.
Yes,
I can't do it anymore. I'm already doing so much.
But really, I actually feel sick when I see all these gender reveals and all these like over the top things. It's like, how do you possibly keep up? Like when you're wearing ice panties, how are you doing how are you TikToking? I mean, really though.
Oh my gosh.
I just can't imagine doing it again. Like in this world, I would love to have more kids, but I just truly, and it kills me as someone who I grew up LDS and I come from a very big family, and every one of my siblings there's 6 siblings or 6 kids, 5 kids. All of my siblings have such big families, and
it's extra. That's extra.
That is extra.
Extra.
Let's be real. But really, it's so much. And I would have loved to have a big family, but I can't in this society. I truly believe that I would not, if my postpartum depression was as severe as it was in 2016, I don't think I would survive motherhood in 2023, 2024, 2025, what that looks like. And I'm terrified for the future of motherhood.
Well, a lot of that is because, like you were saying, and we were talking about this before too, it's because of all this extra and all these things, these expectations that we are supposed to be held to, of like being whatever it is that a mom means that we're supposed to do, all these check boxes that we are supposed to hit. I actually forgot what I was going to say. There was an important point that I had,
but it's true.
And now I don't remember what it was. So somebody else is going to have to
no, but it's, I mean, really.
I feel like one of the aspects that we're missing so far in this conversation is having a partner that supports us as well. Mm-hmm. Because I grew up when I say grew up, as a mother, having 3 kids in which I did not have a supportive partner. And so any moms out there that you don't have a supportive partner, I feel you. And it can be really, really hard because you have this idea of what partnership looks like, of what a mother and a father look like together. And when you don't, like for me, I married my mother and father in one person, and he drank every night. And so, not having that support, and the bedtime routine is hard. Okay.
So horrible.
The hardest thing.
I still have anxiety at bedtime.
Do it anymore.
And when you're doing that alone, it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. So I'm just honoring those moms out there.
I honor that. That's actually a really good point, and to honor them as well. I remember I thought that the person that I married was going to be such a great father, and he is a great father now. But in those early stages of motherhood, it's the most vulnerable place that a woman can be in her entire life. I remember feeling after I had her, literally, I was like, I am so right now because I cannot get out of this situation. I need my partner so badly. They're not there yet. I need to do everything that I possibly can to stay in this marriage because I cannot be alone right now. And I am so sad. And all I'm doing is working. I could cry right now thinking about the way that I felt in those moments. And you're just like pining over them to be there, but they're completely incapable. You're so alone. I don't think I remember sitting in a therapist's office and they were like, well, what's the routine like? Like, when does he give her a bath? And I'm like, he's never given her a bath. She's like 10 months old. Like, he's never given her a bath. Like, I do all the things and I work and I have to be like perfect all. And I did that. Society said I had to do that. And also I felt pressure that I was like, I can't have him leave me. So I better make sure that I look good. I better make sure that I also work and continue to make money. I better make sure that I'm a good mom. And I better make sure that I also deliver sexually because those are my jobs. Those are my jobs. And I have to show up for those jobs. And then you're just like, you're in this space that you can't get out of. And there isn't a lot of support for it. You can't really talk. There's more. We talk more about it now.
We definitely do. But I feel like even well, mine's a little bit older than your guys' oldest, but still I feel like we're in this weird in-between zone where we were raised, or at least I was raised, and I think probably you guys were too, where dads were very hands-off. Like, their only job was to make money. And then our generation came and it was like, okay, dads are helping. Like, dads are coaches. dads coach the t-ball team. Like they're more involved. And so we're supposed to be so grateful that they are in some way showing up. Like they might go pick up the groceries. Like if you give a list that's very specific or ordered, you know.
Thank you so much.
Yes. But
what do I have to do now that you did that?
Right.
Well,
I don't want to say it.
I know what you were going to say.
But really, I feel like that almost overcomplicated things because for me, it was like, I should be so grateful because my oldest is 14. We were still part of that. I feel like it was still part of like his dad felt like he was super helping to me because he would do little things like pick up the groceries. Like that was like, oh my gosh, #blessed. Like he would do that for me.
Probably would have posted about that.
Totally. If there was social media.
Video.
Yeah. Totally. Like, here's my
lucky.
fries pickup
My
order. Love this for me. So I was supposed to be so grateful. But at the same time, it was like, wait, I'm working just as much, if not more than you are outside of the home. I'm nursing. I'm changing. I'm doing all these things. Why? Why am I supposed to be so grateful to this man? And that kind of perpetuated into my second marriage where also then postpartum depression was still so misunderstood compared to what it is now. And not to go back so much to the postpartum depression, but that really was something where I remember reaching out to my partner then and being like, hey, I really feel like I might hurt myself. Like I really do. And him thinking it was such a joke almost and being like, okay, do it. If you're so suicidal, do it then. Like almost taunting me.
Oh my gosh, I want to cry for you.
Yeah, almost taunting me in a way of like, that's not real. Postpartum. And I remember accidentally seeing a text from his stepmom to him that said, she just doesn't love. I could cry talking about it. She just doesn't love him. Talking about my son and thinking because it was so misunderstood then. And I love social media for the fact that I feel like now it is totally, we are so much more aware now
of it
than we've ever been. But at the same time, I think that we're also seeing these beautiful relationships. You talked about how partner, like a lot of us didn't have, or we didn't have partners that really showed up for us. And I think social media is such a problem because we see everyone's best case scenario.
This is true.
And we see the partners that are like changing the diapers and rubbing the bellies and talking to them.
It's a smaller percentage. But I just
it's the people who want to make a video about it.
So I know some wonderful fathers that are supportive and are helpful and not to go back to the postpartum thing as well, but I had something similar where I remember that my mom and my sister were both in the room and the way that they would just look at me like with my daughter, it made me, I felt more alone having them there than if they would just leave. And one particular time they were in the living room and they were like, I mean, I wish that we could, help you, but I mean, you just have to figure it out. And then once my husband was like, he had been drinking and I left the house and I came back and I was gone for 30 minutes thinking he would like come after me, And I come back and I'm like, where do I go? I can't go anywhere. I have an infant in a car seat. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I have to stay in this situation. And his comment is similar, not in a joking way, but it was mockery. It was like, it's harder than you thought, isn't it? Being a mom. Just stone cold staring at me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really sure what you were looking for me to say, but yeah. And I'm just going to go keep by myself.
What choice do we have?
We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice.
And I feel like that's a complicated spot because I do think that, again, social media, I don't want to keep talking about it, but it really is such a part of our culture now that it's hard to avoid it. But I feel like there's a weird like juxtaposition of social media glamorizing motherhood, like to the point where it seems like it's going to be so amazing. But also there's like the dark side of social media that goes hard on making fun of motherhood. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what's
the reality?
Right. What is real? How do we embrace it without making fun of it and without over glamorizing it.
And I think the real part of it is there's a missing piece too, that I don't know what happened where that whole term, like it takes a village, and we were talking about that before too. It's so acceptable everywhere. Like that's the reality. The reality is it takes a village. The reality is that it's supposed to be your extended family, your partner, your other children, your friends, everybody in it together, helping everyone out. And I don't know where that piece of reality got buried somewhere, that is supposed to be just you and just you and just me doing all the things, all the mom things that we have to do, checking off all of the boxes and working and cleaning and wifing and mothering, all these things. The reality is it's not supposed to be just you doing it by yourself. Getting fired up.
I love it. It feels like the women's movement, right? Like our moms, they had to prove that they could work so that we could work, right? I feel like our movement is we had to prove that we can mother and work. Right,
we've done that.
Yeah, we've done it.
I feel like my movement is like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Any of this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm sleepy.
So these are my sleeping glasses. She's wearing, if you're just listening, Janey's wearing pink frame glasses. She's like, these are my sleeping glasses.
Yeah.
These
are normally my sleeping glasses.
Is that bedtime routine? Those are bedtime routine glasses.
Yeah, that is. This is like take out the contacts and wear these. So I'm wearing them all the time as a stand. I'm always going to be sleeping now.
I don't want to do any of these things.
But I was exhausted. I was
you can't sleep.
Exhausted. Exactly. You couldn't sleep. And I would stay up late working. Mm-hmm. I would be up nursing 4 times a night, 5 times a night, wake up 6 a.m., work again. I mean, there was no break. There was no stop. There was no help.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I look at it's wild looking at other cultures and how much they are gifted with motherhood of like, you get a year off and you get a year off and you get a year off and you get like
you get 6 weeks maybe.
Yeah. I got 3. Okay, unpaid too. Like both. I remember going back into my occupational therapy career with my second. I went back after a whopping 4 weeks with him. Took an extra whole week. That was luxury.
They're a month old. What the heck?
I know. And I literally was still wearing the mesh panties. I was still wearing the giant pad and working with these. And my specialty in occupational therapy has always been like the really hard kids. Like give me all the babies that like other therapists are shying away from. And that's hard. I love what I do and what I did, but it's very like physically demanding. And I would bring my tiny baby, and I had both of my kids 3 weeks early due to preeclampsia. So they were tiny babies, and I would bring them in the little pouch thing. And what is that called? I don't remember.
Carrier.
I'm so old. A carrier. There we go.
No,
like I'm a kangaroo. I would bring them in my pouch.
In my pouch because I'm a kangaroo.
I'm also a kangaroo. Yeah. Part kangaroo, part mom.
I am a kangaroo.
Literally, call me Kanga. But I would bring them.
I can be that too.
I could. If you freaking crap. In America, we can be anything we want now. Jeez, we have to. So bring them, and I would be like... Literally, it's funny, but it's like I would be like running away from kids trying to bite me with this little baby like popping around like like don't hurt me. And I'm laughing about it at the time. I was like, what am I doing? Why am I here right now? I can't.
You have to be.
Yeah. I remember that so vividly of like, wait, doctor said I couldn't run because my uterus could literally fall out of my body. But I am like running for my life
Literally.
from this child who wants to bite me. So don't even know where I was going with this because I go, but it's just so wild how we don't have that village anymore. We don't have that whole experience of like being supported, but there's such a bigger expectation than ever before. And it makes me so devastated to see new moms. Like it makes me sick because I love motherhood. I actually genuinely, especially having a 14-year-old now who he's a teenager. He's hard, but I can see like the fruits of my labor now. Yeah. Where like with my 7-year-old, we're still like, what you gonna be? Serial killer or CEO? We don't know.
Sometimes it's the same set of characteristics.
We don't know.
It's a little OCD.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. We don't know.
Could go either way.
Yeah. Tomato, tomato. But my oldest, I can really see, and I do know for a fact I had a big hand in him becoming how amazing he is. And so I love that I get to experience this, but at the same time, I feel so genuinely scared and sad for new little mommies having babies in this world because it's hard.
It's hard. It's hard. No one talks about how hard it is. And no one talks about the mom guilt piece of it is especially that's a whole nother topic when it comes to school. And I always feel like I'm running. Like I always feel like I'm that mom that's like, I'm always running late. Like I walk in and thank goodness I don't have to freaking do snack anymore because I was like notorious for being that mom where I come into the preschool and it's like, you just know when it's going to be your day soon. You just know it's going to be your day soon. I walk in, I look at the teacher and I'm like, snack's me today, isn't it?
That one's on me. That one's on me. Do you accept Uber Eats for snacks? Can I Uber Eats goldfish?
Right back. And it's like, it has to be something specific too. Yeah. You can't just get
no, not.
It's like it has to be
gluten-free
yogurt with blueberries and little. I'm like, I'd be running, making the phone call. I'm gonna be late for the meeting. Like, I'm so sorry, I had to push back the showing. Like, running into the grocery store, getting the 32 freaking little individually cupped things with the blueberries, dropping them back off, and I'm like sweating.
Yeah.
Or showing up late, like lunch was at 11:15 from the room, Mom. I'm like, thank you.
I know.
Thank you for the reminder. I just dropped 8 meetings to be here. Okay? Stop judging me.
Yeah. I'm not crying. I'm glistening heavily.
I know. Oh my gosh.
I know. It's so funny because I've never in my life forgotten a kid's lunch, which I don't want to brag, but
wow. You know
my
what?
son's 14, so maybe I've only had him every other week for the last 12 years, but still, every other week I've killed lunch. So, but last week on like one of my son's first days
of school, lunch?
I did. I forgot to put his freaking lunch. I packed it.
How dare you be a human being?
I know. It's sickening. But the problem is she CC'd my ex-husband on the email and was like, Barrett doesn't have a lunch. I was like, oh, yeah, he does. It's in his backpack. Look harder. I literally said that. I should post this email because I was so mortified. I didn't know what to say. So I was like, no, it's in there. It's in there. I know it is. She's like, there's no lunch in there. I was like, okay.
Also, was that necessary?
So
to
why
call
did
you
we
out?
CC the husband? Because this isn't work where we're trying to shame people.
That might have been the point.
But it is.
To let you know that you forgot.
It is. I feel like sometimes
it's not your most important job that day.
But isn't that so funny? I feel like we are like kind of like purposely shaming each other in a way. Like not me, but other people do that. You know? Like they do almost. Like I think sometimes subconsciously we accidentally put other mothers in a bad spot.
I think
that that's probably true.
I know I probably accidentally, I'm a very over the top mom with holidays and things. And I think that I accidentally, in a way, broadcast too much how extra I can be about things like that. And I do need to reel that in.
I resent you for that.
Well, I am wearing purple shoes. I don't want to bring it up again, but I'm a little bit extra.
We should probably put up the Christmas.
I know. I'll try to be less.
No, never be less.
I'm just making up for my other inadequacies.
I think that's the best thing that we could do, though, is ask other moms how we could support them and just be there for each other. Yeah. You know, like genuinely.
I think that's a perfect message. It's like asking other women, what can we do? I don't think we ask that enough.
I don't think we ask that enough either. So speaking of anybody reaching out to either of you to vent, ask anything about motherhood.
Shame me.
Shame us.
Go ahead. Been there 14 years deep.
How do we find each of you on social media?
I am at Janey Kaspari. Good luck spelling it. on Instagram.
I'll put a link at the bottom of the episode. So she's gonna shame you that you can't spell
yeah,
that.
exactly.
So,
Sound it out.
I'll put a link so you can find that. Okay.
And you can find me, Jessica LaMarre, at Love Personal Growth.
Is there any, before we wrap this up, is there any advice that you have? I know it's hard to give advice to moms. I feel like we could all use a little piece of advice from each other. And maybe it is just being able to rely on one another and not shame each other and be there for each other in true support. That's what we're supposed to do as women, especially as moms. If there's anything that you have to say just about motherhood and to other moms, what would it be?
I think for me, it would be whatever you are doing is good enough for right now. I think that if you are trying, that is the perfect. It's how I started this episode and how I'll end it is I think if you are having the thought, am I good enough? You are good enough. It is the moms who are not questioning that. Oh, I'm going to cry. But it is the moms who are not asking themselves the questions of how can I be better that are not showing up for their kids the way they should be. And the fact that you're even thinking about that shows that you love your kids so much. You want to be enough. And that is enough as it is.
I would say give an uplifting message, even if it's walking through the grocery store, like, you've got this, or great job. Just give an uplifting message to another mother because she needs it. She needs it more than you know. She needs it more than you think. What would you want to hear then?
I love that too. Thank you both for coming on. I know we could talk about this subject forever, and some of it's funny and some of it's serious and some of it's both. So thanks for bringing some of the tears and the laughter to a good portion of it, because it is reality, and we're not, every time I have a conversation like this, we're not the only person that's faced with this. I think it's probably the only time ever that you can say, no, it's all of us. It's every mom that deals with these things. Maybe not everything we touched on, but a good portion. It's every mom. So you are not alone. And if you need to reach out to any one of these fabulous ladies or myself, you know where to find me. I'll put links at the bottom of the episode for both Jessica and Janey. Thank you both for taking the time to come on today. And thank all of you for listening. That's You're It Girl.